This transit is something we haven't experienced in 300 years, which is a pretty big deal. This is going to really impact us in a major way. It is bringing a need to face the music. People who have been avoidant or trying to gaslight us or manipulate us are no longer going to work. Hi, welcome back to the channel. I'm Kelsey, here to help you understand astrology and human design in a simple way you can easily understand. And I am so excited for the topic of this video because we're going to talk about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction and how it's going to be showing up for you in general based on your rising sign. Now, there's always so much more going on to your chart than just where things are based on your rising sign, which would give us an indication about the house placement. This is showing up for you, the area of life, of physical life. I go off the whole sign house system. So again, this depends on a lot of things. What's going on in your chart, what house system you're using, for how this is going to show up for you on a personal, individualized level. And this is what I teach you to be able to understand by looking at your chart. In my Become an Astrologer course, those of you that are students of my astrology courses know how to do this already and may even know how this is showing up for you based on your chart already, because this is going to really impact us in a major way. Especially today, the day that I'm filming this, we have a new moon in Gemini. So we are all really setting intentions right now about asserting ourselves, our communication, our ideas, our information in new ways that are aligned with the paradigm shift that we're all in and the transition into a new chapter that we're all experiencing. So to me, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, when I did my 2025 update, that lives in my inner circle, the vault inside of my inner circle, which hosts over 30 classes, replays of classes I've taught on astrology and human design already, and I do a yearly update going over a month-to-month play-by-play of the year ahead. And for 2025, the Saturn-Neptune conjunction really took precedent of that class because it was such a focal point. This transit is something we haven't experienced in 300 years. Which is a pretty big deal. And so in the 2025 update, it was something I really spoke to a lot, as we're going to be experiencing it all summer. Now, it's never going to get exact this year. It will get within 8 minutes of being exact, but we are going to experience it next year. So this initial foreshadowing of it is going to give us a glimpse into what it's going to look like long term, not only for ourselves personally, but also for the collective. I posted a video recently on TikTok about how this transit specifically is really a wake-up call for people who have been avoidant, dismissive, gaslighting, you know, had a veil of illusion over what they're doing or their behavior or their sense of self. And Saturn adding to this energy is bringing discipline. It is bringing a need to wake up. It is bringing a need to face the music. People who have been avoidant or veiling things or trying to gaslight us or manipulate us with tactics are no longer going to work. That is the old paradigm that we are stepping out of. We are stepping into authenticity, truth, awareness over our own instincts and intuition. And Aries rules the instincts. Aries also rules the sense of self, the identity, who we actually are and how we're being and interacting with people from the individual level of owning our own authority and doing so from a place of bravery and courage. Now, I've shared this in other places and I've gone more into details in my inner circle because I don't feel comfortable talking about it in a super public space yet, but I am entering into a kind of legal pursuit with someone in my life that I just did not expect to have to really hold accountable in this way. And that's how this transit is showing up for me. It's taking place in my 7th house of other people, really indicating, you know, that other people around me are going to have to face the music if they have been avoidant or manipulative or gaslighting. And Saturn really requires accountability and responsibility. So these two coming together in the sign of Aries is all about waking up to our own authority, like I said, and having to face the music, having to hold ourselves accountable and responsible for things that maybe we were procrastinating or avoiding or neglecting. Now, if this is like someone you've been dealing with that's like this in your life, they are going to have to kind of be forced to take accountability and responsibility. Now, this might not happen through you directly, depending on where this is in your chart and what else is going on in your chart. It could happen, you know, of their own accord. It could happen of their own kind kind of karmic making, because Saturn also is the planet of karma and timing. So it's also about the divine timing of when this authority is imposed on the person that has been avoiding taking it and owning it. But this transit will treat you kindly if you have been taking accountability, responsible, and not avoiding things, not putting things off. If you're procrastinating things, if you're putting things off that you know you need to be disciplined about or committed to, like coming to some sort of resolution around, like you know, you might have a wake-up call, you might have a rug removed from underneath you moment where you do have to face the music, where you do have to be accountable for whatever this is, right? But again, this depends on your chart and your free will. If you're using it in a way that is supporting the positive sides or aspects of this transit. Saturn is really like that authority figure that we don't like, whether it's a teacher or one of our parents or whatever it is, like a boss that we just don't like because they're really hard on us for certain things, but ultimately it propels us into what's needed for our growth and our evolution. And if we're not facing that head on, if we're avoiding that or neglecting that or dismissing that, then it's gonna be harder, right? Things are gonna be harder for you if you're not taking accountability or responsibility for what is being brought up around you that needs to be addressed. And this transit is going to be the really like rug pulled out from under you moment of holding you accountable to the growth and evolution that's needed for you and the reason that you are here on this planet, right? Saturn is a planet of long-term evolution and growth. It asks for us to build a solid foundation of whatever it is that we're being asked to face or deal with, right? And Saturn in Aries too is the beginning of a new 30-year cycle. Like this is the ending of Saturn's whole transit through the zodiac for the last 30 years and starting anew. So we're really, this is the time period of really stepping into this new chapter. And I feel like I've been talking about this in all of my videos because this is what 2025 is really all about, is closing up old cycles and old chapters so that we can step into the new. And this is where we really start to see it begin, is with Saturn moving into Aries, because Saturn is also the ruler of time. And there is a divine timing and orchestration to all that's happening in our lives. And astrology teaches us that. That's what I teach you to be able to read and understand about your chart and others in my Become an Astrologer course, how to read the transits. But it really shows you the exact framework for divine timing in your own life and why things are happening for you at a certain time or when they will or why they did in the past, right? And so Saturn moving into Aries is this kind of reset of our relationship with not only time, but our relationship with discipline and commitment, what we're focused on and what we're building as a foundation of our whole society, especially with Neptune moving into Aries as well. This is a new beginning around our spirituality, our intuition, learning to trust our instincts. Like I said earlier in the video, that's what this all is about. Not letting people put a veil over you or illusion you, your sense of self and what you know to be your truth and your intuition with their words, with their gaslighting tactics, right? This is all about learning how to take our power back from people who would manipulate it, from people who would have us not realize our own authority and live from that place of trusting ourselves, right? Gaslighters, manipulators, they rely on people to not know who they are, to not know their rights, or to not know their true sense of self and act from that place of authority and boundary setting, right? But this transit is asking us to literally do that and to act from a place of knowing our own worth, authority, value, and what we will stand for versus what we will not stand for, and setting the necessary boundaries and being disciplined with them as is required, and truly acting in alignment with our instincts and intuition. Instincts is really just survival intelligence. Intuition is survival intelligence. It is your higher knowing, your higher self, your inner body knowing, telling you what is really truly going on, right? And we have to trust that. And that's what this transit is really bringing awareness around and kind of forcing discipline with, is trusting our own selves over what someone else would have us believe, trusting our own intuition over what someone else would have us believe, right? These are all the things that we are being faced with in terms of this transit right now, and especially with Pluto and Aquarius, right? What's going to prevail, what's going to be the dynamic that we see transforming as it relates to power and control over the next 18 years with Pluto moving through Aquarius is reliance on the people, reliance on what benefits humanity as a whole, removing the shadow of the collective, of acting from ego, right? Pluto and Capricorn really was a transit of what's best for corporate interest, interest, what's best for the workforce, what's best for money, success, the foundation of the government and the systems in our society that have existed since the start of these systems. What is going to benefit that? But with Pluto and Aquarius, it's what's going to benefit the people. You know, the French Revolution happened with Pluto and Aquarius. That's the last time that we saw this transit on this planet. That's just one of the things that happened during Pluto and Aquarius. We also saw the beginning of the US coming together as a country, and among other things, right? Which was based on freedom, which was based on the rights that we have as human beings, human rights. And all of these things are being shifted as a focus. We're going from the old outdated system and we're really stepping into a new, and we're focused more on like, okay, how can we come together to support each other? How can we do things in a way that's going to benefit like not only us and our communities, but our species on this planet? How can we coexist here in a way that's going to benefit mutually everybody? And not only is Aquarius the sign of humanity, but it's also a sign that really doesn't take any bullshit. Aquarius is a sign and energy that is rooted in authenticity. So we're seeing a really big and powerful return to authenticity. And that comes down to trusting our instincts and our intuitive awareness. Because when you are living from that place of what you know to be true for you, that's authenticity, right? That's being authentic. And this Pluto and Aquarius transit is also being supported by the Neptune-Saturn conjunction. They're in a sextile together. So this is all, you know, potential harmony that we have the ability to act on, to create more of in our life, to take back our power and say, no, I'm not going to stand for this. I'm not willing to stand for this. This is coming from an inauthentic, manipulative place, and I'm not putting up with it. That's really what these transits are asking for. So if you've been dealing with people or somebody in your life who is avoidant or dismissive or negligent, this is really a time of you needing to stand up for yourself, of really like calling on your backbone to be like, no, I'm not willing to settle for this. I'm not willing to stand for this because I know in my bones it's not right, and I'm going to force you into some sort of accountability and responsibility around it that is needed for it to come to a resolution that's going to benefit everybody involved. And that's really what this transit is asking for on a grander scale in general. Now, like I said at the beginning, how it's going to show up for you personally depends on your chart and depends on your personal life as well, but I'll just quickly go through each rising sign and how this transit could be showing up for you based on your rising sign. Aries rising, this is about you. This is about your identity. This is about your personal will, your personal sense of self, maybe your appearance as well. Taurus, this is about your spirituality. This is about your mental health. This is about really owning your boundaries when it comes to not taking on subconscious beliefs from others or that were passed down. This is really standing up for your mental, physical, and energetic boundaries. Gemini Rising, this is taking place in your 11th house. That may be calling for action in terms of your community, your friend group, or things like that would have you question yourself or what you're doing, your boundaries when it comes to any of those things. Cancer Rising, this is happening in your area of career and public reputation. You might have to really stand up for yourself in that area of your life and set necessary boundaries. Leo, this is happening in your 9th house, so you might really be faced with having to change your philosophies of life and really kind of snap out of some sort of fantasy or illusion as it relates to how you're viewing the world around you and what you're believing to be true about your reality. Virgo Rising, this is happening in your 8th house of shared resources, taxes, debt, inheritance, investments. So you might be really called to kind of face the music as it relates to what you're doing with your money, how you're making it, and where it's going to create short-term and long-term wealth for yourself in ways that feel aligned with your goals and your visions. And you might also be really working through some deep-rooted ancestral beliefs about money and resources. Libra Rising, this is happening in your 7th house of other people. So you might have to really wake up as it relates to a fantasy you've had around a relationship or a person in your life, and they really might be forced to take accountability once you address the concerns. Scorpio Rising, this is happening in your 6th house, so you might really have to step up to the plate in terms of work or your physical health in some way and really, you know, stop avoiding or procrastinating whatever it is that you want to begin as it relates to what you're doing for work on a daily basis and how that's supporting your physical and energetic health as well. Sagittarius Rising, this is showing up in your 5th house of creative passions, romantic pursuits, and partnerships. and you might really have to face the music and come to a sobering realization about some sort of creative passion or pursuit that you want to do, share, create with the world, embark on. You might have to really commit yourself to some new creative project that you maybe have been not wanting to face. Capricorn, this is happening in your 4th house, so you might be dealing with negligent family members or anything in regards to a housing situation, and you might really have to stand up for yourself as it relates to whatever's going on there and really assert your boundaries in a clear, concise way that kind of forces the person to take accountability and responsibility over their negligence. Aquarius Rising, this is happening in your 3rd house, so you might really have to kind of face the music about your belief systems, your communication, your mindset, and how that is playing into this new journey that you're embarking on and this new chapter that you want to have for yourself and your life. You might really have to change the story you're telling yourself and stop avoiding that internal work so you can have this new beginning in the way that you know is meant for you. Pisces Rising, this is happening in your 2nd house, so you might really have to face the music around money, finances, resources. You might really have to be disciplined with whatever you're doing to make money, especially if it's a new venture. Instead of avoiding or procrastinating taking the action, you're going to kind of be forced to have to take the action, and it will positively benefit your finances when you commit yourself to whatever this is. So those are all 12 rising signs. Let me know how this is showing up for you so far. It's been less than a week since this transit began, but let me know and come back and update me too as the summer progresses and this transit does as well, how this is showing up for you, because this is going to be kind of, like I said, a long-term theme. We're going to at least be experiencing this for the next year and a half. So, you know, with some wiggle room in between. But in general, that's probably how it's going to show up for you. Again, depends on your chart and depends on what house system you're using. But yeah, let me know how this resonates with you so far in the comments, and we'll talk about it if you have any questions. I'm really excited for this transit. I feel like it's going to be really beneficial short-term and long-term for those of us that have been dealing with people who are just dismissive or avoidant or in their own kind of fantasy land. They're really going to have to come back down to reality. And for some of us, that might be you. You might have to come back down to reality about some things that you were really in your head about, or really, you know, delusional about, for lack of a better word. But again, that depends on your personal life and what else is going on in your chart. So let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.